So today, Megan Pyle is going to be the touring docent that's giving our presentation. And as I mentioned, I am the substitute administrator. Any questions before we begin? All right then, Megan, what are we going to be talking about today? And let me, I think I need to give everybody the option to unmute. All right, Megan, go ahead. What are we going to be talking about today?
Oh, well, thank you, Hank, and nice to see everyone again. And I'm just excited about these artworks we're going to be discussing today. The theme is spin the color wheel, because these artworks just have such bright, vivid colors. And I thought I'd do something a little bit different before we get started today. I thought we could take a look at all of the artworks, and we could just sort of have some first impressions of the colors blue, green, and red. And I just thought that might be fun to see what everybody's, just tell me the first word that comes to mind when you think of the color blue, the color green, and the color red. Doesn't necessarily have to pertain to the artwork, but just the color. Hank, what's the first word that comes to your mind when you think of the color blue?
And it's actually an interesting question, because normally when you think of the color blue, you think of a calm, relaxing environment, or it's just a calming color. But when you look at these three images, the one on the left, which blue is the primary color, I get just the opposite feeling. It seems very active and very alive.
Okay, good.
It's funny, Megan, you mentioned the blue, the red, but you didn't mention yellow. And I see yellow in all three of these pictures as well. But
well, what's the first word that comes to mind when you think of yellow?
I don't know. I'll go back to the blue for a minute, because I think of sky. I think of the blue sky, Carolina blue sky, and blue actually is one of my favorite colors. But the reason it's one of my favorite colors is because I'm diverting here, but I'm a huge baseball fan, and the New York Mets is my team coming from the Northeast, and their colors are blue and orange. So, blue and orange, it's almost like one color to me are my favorite colors. But
okay, how about Karen?
I'll go for the blue, and I'll include the green because the green has some blue mixed into it, of course. And I think of the ocean. And then I would include the yellow ochre colors as the beach, the sand.
Okay, good.
And the red is purely an umbrella.
Okay, that's a beautiful picture you've painted. Okay, Lynn, do you have any comments?
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so I like Laurel, I also paid attention to the yellow. Because I don't know what it takes a very small portion of the picture, but like it caught my attention. And it reminds me of the moon, particularly in the third picture. And then if I think about it as the moon in the third picture, then I look back at the first two pictures. I think I imagined like the moonlight, because we just had the Mid-Autumn Festival, and the moon in the middle of the month is very bright and round. So it's like the light of the moon on that night, it's very bright, and it like can shed a lot of light, especially during the night.
Okay, good. Okay, Barbara, do you have any? Barbara, you joined us, just joined us, but so welcome. And I asked everyone, because the theme today is spin the color wheel. So Barbara, what's the first word that you think of when you see these colors. I don't know if it's blue or green or red or yellow that jumps out at you, but can you think of one word to describe the first color that jumps out at you?
Gorgeously avocado green.
Okay.
I tried to
Okay.
fit it all into one word.
All right. Good. Okay. Well, thank you all. Well, Hank, would you please take us to the first artwork, please? Okay. So this is, it may be hard to tell on the screens, but all three of these paintings, if you were to see them in the museum, they have thick brush strokes and a lot of texture. So it'll be interesting to see if that comes through. But I wanted to ask you all, how do the lines make you feel? You know, if you think about the lines, if they're, can anybody kind of make the lines? Are they straight lines or curved lines? Or which lines are y'all noticing first?
I'll probably turn it on its side, turn it 45 degrees, 90 degrees.
Okay.
The left side would be standing up. Maybe the other way around. Wait a second. No. Oh, I don't know yet. Oh, it's a tree, yeah. The left side would be down and the right side would be up.
Okay. Okay, good.
Kind of an abstract representation of maybe a large conifer or something like that.
Okay.
I think it's quite abstract and it can be very open to the imagination and interpretation. I mean, you could see wind, you could see sky, you could see birds, trees, flowers, air. The white comes out more to me now. I'm finding the balance of the white with the right upper corner and to the left and below. And you can almost see a daymare, a nightmare, so many things in here.
So if we see any horizontal lines, do those lines make you feel falling, leaning, or kind of anxious, or do those lines make you feel like you're flying or soaring, or are the lines in this giving anyone a particular feeling?
To me, it does feel it's an interesting question you're posing. I didn't think of it, but the horizontal line going, well, kind of right in the middle, and some parallel does make me feel more ominous. Maybe that's why I turned it around. Yeah, interesting.
Okay.
I wonder what the inspiration would be from the artist. It's almost as if they had music on and then just started like putting something on the canvas to music.
Okay, good. So
the big bold lines kind of, to me, it looks almost menacing. And the darker blue, I'll be honest, it looks like a giant spider to me, with the legs coming off the bottom. And it kind of looks like, because those big bold lines, it looks like it's actually coming toward me almost.
Okay. Okay, good. So the artist's brush strokes are very alive, creating a lot of movement.
Oh yeah, there is a lot of movement and a lot of detail and intricacy.
Can I say something?
Yes, please.
Thank you. For me, I don't see lines at all. And everybody else does, which I find obviously they must be there for somebody, for all of you. even though they're not for me. I just see fields of color. And I really like the way the gentleman, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name yet, describes it as being, I guess I heard sort of menacing, like a spider. I know about those scorpions.
Right. Okay, good.
I see more turbulence and calm. Like we talked about earlier, blue, you think of more calm and soothing. And yet I see, because of the brush strokes and because of the lines and the color, the way it's kind of splatted on there, it's like more turbulence to me.
Okay, good.
Can I add?
Yes, please.
Because there seems to be such a huge disparity in experience of this very abstract shape, whatever it is, I think is a great example of how we all have to be so careful and respectful of each and every person's opinion about whatever it is they're expressing their opinion about.
Yes.
That's a really nice point.
Yes. So what color or shape or texture or line, what takes up the most space in this artwork?
The whole thing.
I would say color. It's, to me, it's predominantly a work of color.
Okay, good. So so you're not seeing white space, you're seeing color. Okay, good.
But isn't color the mixture? Isn't white the color of all colors mixed together in light?
Yes, I believe that's right.
But it's color on top of color. Like it's almost like you drew outside the lines. They blend together. You can't tell where the green stops and the white begins and the blue enters and then the dark comes in. So each color kind of blends to the next color that it's adjacent to.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, good. Well, does anyone else have a comment before we look at the title?
Okay.
My
I
other
was
comment
sorry.
is, in a way, to me, it's very abstract expressionist because obviously it's an abstract, and just the big bold strokes of color, you know, it very much, to me, it very much is coming out of the artist's heart or whatever, rather than a well thought out, planned painting. He's just, you know, slapping the color on there just as an expression of what's maybe going on inside of the artist.
Okay, good.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, please.
Is there time? Is there time?
Yes, absolutely.
Can you explain, sir? I'm sorry, I still didn't get your name. Or anybody, the difference between abstract expressionism and postmodern. I was an art history major, but I graduated in 78. But I guess they were there already, but I just didn't study them. So sorry. I think I have to answer this. Probably have to answer this call. Good, they didn't finish. So that's my question. If anybody cares to respond, I know it could be lengthy. So it's okay, we don't have to do it.
I would say, just in my knowledge, that postmodernism describes a much broader movement that might include abstract expressionism as well as other movements. You know, it's more describing a movement that was developed in the late 20th century. And abstract expressionism, I think, is a little earlier than that.
Yeah.
And abstract expressionism, to me, is kind of specific. It's pretty much the two words in there. It's abstract and it's expressionism. So basically coming from inside the artist rather than what the artist is seeing. It's more like what the artist is feeling. He's expressing feeling, mood, or whatever. Whereas
Wow.
postmodernism to me just describes the fact that it's a departure from modernism.
What, like, does it have anything to do with what you're feeling as opposed to what you're seeing postmodernism?
It could be. I think that's just a piece of it. It's
Mhm.
broader than that. I think would be how I think of them differently.
Wow, that's really amazing that you could detail it that much.
Well, thank you, Hank. And Karen, would you like to make a comment? Did you have a final comment for us?
No.
Okay, good. Okay, well, thank you. Well, may we see the label, please, Hank? So
Dragon. Oh, it is close to a spider and a scorpion.
it is, and so it's entitled Dragon, and the artist Hale Espacio Woodruff. So this was painted around 1957, and he was an African-American artist. He was born in 1900 and died in 1980. But he had a long, illustrious career. He grew up, he was born in Illinois, but grew up going to segregated schools in Nashville, Tennessee. And then he studied, at art institutes in the Midwest. And then between 1927 and 1931, he studied in Paris on a scholarship.
Wow.
But because of the Depression and, economic circumstances, he then returned to the United States, where he taught at historically Black colleges around the Atlanta area. And he eventually settled in New York, and he was very influenced by abstract expressionist paintings, Martha Rothko, Jackson Pollock, Franz Klein, Adolf Gottlieb. But he folded his study of African culture into abstract expressionism painting. So he really a lot of his art was influenced by African art and African culture. And in 1963, he founded an African-American artist collective called Spiral, with Romer Bearden, Charles Alston, and Norman Lewis. And the intention was to meet for critiques and also discuss how the Black artist should contribute to the civil rights movement. And I don't know the artist's intent with this painting, but I will tell you that in African folklore, the dragon there's often a serpent-like dragon called the rainbow serpent. That's part of the creation myth. But dragons can also be seen as figures that bring about death. But the rainbow serpent, Aido Huido, had to eat vast quantities of iron to sustain his strength, because he supported the earth by curling underneath it to ensure that everything was in the universe remained in its place. But when there was not enough iron, then the dragon would eat its tail to sustain its strength. And there's a tradition that newlyweds would make sort of offerings of iron to this dragon, sort of for good luck. But he's a really interesting artist, and I'm really glad that our museum has one of his paintings. Okay, well, Hank,
Can I comment? Is there time?
Well, absolutely. I'll tell you what, why don't you make your comment, and Hank, at the same time, would you please take us to the next slide, and we'll just continue our transition, but absolutely, go ahead. Go ahead, Barbara.
Okay, I'll try and be brief, which difficult for me. Of course, my first reaction when you said who he was, and then I already thought of it immediately. And then when you said he wanted to respond to the civil rights movement, I thought, oh yeah, it's the dragon of racism. But then I had no idea it would be the not a motto, but like help them deal with the racism. That's how I see it. Is this his message about how Black people could use this as a way to help them deal with the specter, the dragon of racism?
Mhm.
Yes, absolutely.
The scorpion, in my case. It's so beautiful to think that this is a serpent, that whole iron thing, and then it becomes a wedding present. That's amazing. And I never, ever heard of him. And I haven't studied very many African-American artists. And I do know about Bearden, and I even forget, Mosley or something from the Harlem Renaissance. I only know it because I learned this song to sing by jazz artist, Black artist, Gregory Porter, who wrote a song called Painted on Canvas, which I think
wow.
brilliant words.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a
Okay.
combination of painting and singing and music and fabulous African-American artists all rolled into one.
Oh, that's lovely. Okay, Hank, may we see the next slide, please? Okay. So we'll look at this top to bottom, side to side, corner to corner. And as we're looking at it up close, there's many more colors than green. But while you're looking, green is the color of life and renewal, nature and energy, harmony, freshness, safety, fertility, environment. So I think there's quite a contrast between this artwork and the previous artwork. I think even though stylistically they're similar. So what's the first thing that you notice about this artwork?
I like the brush strokes. Again, I'm sure if you see it in person, you could probably see more texture, but I can see texture in this, and I see shapes of squares and triangles and rectangles and things like that. And the yellow to me would be maybe more representative of daffodils or flowers, and just kind of a greeny, green is good kind of earthy feel here.
Okay, good. So
I am always drawn to this painting when I go to the museum. I shouldn't give this away, maybe the size. It's huge. It's more oblong than high. I just love it. Yeah, I'm so happy to see it. I'll try and paint it. I'll take a picture. I'll come to the museum and take a photo. And yeah, it's just, it speaks to me. I think it's nature. There's a loose orderliness in there with the repetitions. I love it.
okay, good. So you're seeing a lot of repetition, and do you see movement? Like, how would you compare the movement with this artwork and the one that we previously looked at?
Oh, this is like a spring evening, and a lovely jazz trio is playing softly in the background to me.
Okay.
It has something jazzy to me about it.
Okay, good.
I see less movement, but I hear maybe more music, like there could be a symphony playing nearby, and just breathing it all in, so to speak.
Okay, good.
And I kind of agree with all the other folks. I don't see nearly as much movement as the previous artwork, and this one just appears more calm. I feel like I'm kind of deep in the forest. So that's, even though Karen mentioned a jazz trio or whatever, and Laurel mentioned the symphony. I actually, if anything, I might hear a few birds chirping, but I just feel more of a stillness. And I thought it was interesting that you mentioned that green is the color of life, and and then my take that I feel like I'm deep in the forest. In the forest, it's responsible for life. The trees producing oxygen, cleaning the air, and so on. So I like that comparison.
Okay, good. Well, and I will tell you, this is a landscape.
Can
And
I comment whenever you have a chance?
oh, absolutely, yes. I just was going to say this is a landscape, but I wanted to ask you all, what perspective do you think the artist is representing? Lying on his back, looking up, looking out at something in front of him, or looking down from a mountaintop. I mean, what do you think is the artist's perspective for this painting? And Barbara, go ahead, please.
Oh, thank you. Sorry to interrupt. I see where you're going, and I see that it is what it is, but what it evoked for me was a body of water, which is right on my campus where I live. And I live in the city of Boston, Massachusetts. I'm in the city of limits. So if any of you have heard, we have this really exciting mayoral race and city council race going on that actually is very possibly going to have a person of color for mayor. We hoped, or we thought maybe it would actually be an African mayor. Anyway, so here we are. The vernal pool, we have one of only 2 to 3 vernal pools in all of the city of Boston. And I love going there, and it's very calm and healing. And there's a thick scum of avocado green on the body of water. And usually that scum is not pleasant to look at, but that scum is beautiful because this color or similar reminded me of it. And this really thick vegetation that's grown up since I was gone for about 5 weeks. And your area, neck of the woods, really, in North Carolina, right near Asheville. That's how I got to your museum in the first place. And I just want to say this is so special for me to be at. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, thank you for that. So what does everyone else think about the artist's perspective?
I think it was straight looking out. I think that, like, across maybe a galley or a valley or a gully or something, but looking straight out. That's my impression.
Okay. And you saw the daffodils and trees, is that right, Laurel?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay. Karen, what do you think?
I don't know. I really don't know.
Lynn? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Lynn, do you have any comment or any ideas?
It could be a park with the darker, so that would mean it's taken from somewhere up looking down at the park, maybe one of the high buildings around. I was going to say Central Park, but it's too dense, you wouldn't see the yellow. But all those darker green that I really just noticed now, which could be treetops, it could be a bird's eye perspective from a tall building. And then the yellow is sunlight coming through or meadows.
Okay, good.
Not sure what now. I'm seeing more blues and pinks and turquoises popping in and out on
Yeah,
the edges. I'm not sure what they represent. They add to the enjoyment of the painting, but I'm not sure if they represent anything specific.
Okay, good. Hank, do you have a comment about the perspective?
I, I have to agree with Karen. I think it's a sort of like an aerial view, like we're looking down into the forest, and I think the different colors are kind of typical. If you really start to study like the treetops and stuff, they're not green. The different leaves, especially different times of year, not only in the fall when leaves turn, but also in the spring as they start to sprout. There's so many different colors in the young leaves, and I think that's very much captured here. So that's my thought.
Mm,
Okay, good. So do you all think the artist was painting from memory or from, a feeling inside? Or do you think the artist was kind of set up an easel and was out of doors painting this?
I'm going to answer yes.
I would wonder if it was a standalone or maybe even part of a series of types of similar landscape paintings.
And I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that. Do you know, Hank?
I do not.
I imagine he can imagine the aerial view without actually seeing it, and then proceed in that way from his imagination or from his having seen earlier. I don't think he's standing on top of the Empire State Building and looking down and painting.
Okay, good. And if we could, and I don't know if it comes across on this kind of our screens, but if you could feel this painting kind of run your hand along, what do you think it would feel like?
Jello.
Okay.
a little bumpy.
Okay.
I think so. I think you could feel a lot of different textures, because some of the, at least from the slide, looks like some of the colors were applied in a more smooth, but then some of the colors, especially some of the yellow, looks like it's really been laid on a little thicker, which would give it more texture.
Okay, good. So would you all like to display this artwork in your home?
Yeah, I'll take everything else down. Absolutely. I have to buy new carpet though, so.
Okay, good. And would you all know that this is a landscape without me telling you?
Assume so.
And what do you see that makes you say that?
Because it's green
Okay.
and basically kind of square-like. So I think of trees. I don't know why.
Okay,
Or
good.
just blocks of grass that you might see from that aerial view that somebody mentioned, looking down at a golf course.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Well, does anyone have any final comments they'd like to make before we look at the title?
I really enjoyed looking at it. It makes me feel calm. As
I love
opposed to
this.
that last one that made me hyped up.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, well, Hank, may we see the title, please?
Green landscape. That's so sweet.
Uh,
It is what it says.
yes, yes, and this was painted, similar
Black
time
Mountain
period
College, yeah.
to
Oh,
um,
Black Mountain.
to the previous artwork that we looked at. I think that one was 1957. This is 1953, and I think there are some similarities with the abstract expressionism style. But I did want to just take an opportunity to tell you not only a little bit about the artist, but just a little bit about Black Mountain College.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, Black Mountain College was an experimental liberal arts school that was founded in 1933 and then closed in 1957. But it was founded by John Andrew Rice when Europe was being driven to barbarism by terrorism and totalitarian regimes. And many Jewish intellectuals and artists emigrated and were able to emigrated to survive. But sciences and arts were taught with equal esteem.
Wow.
And the faculty had complete freedom in the organization of their teaching. There was no prescribed curriculum for the students. But it was like any, it was an unusual college. It was a really close-knit social community where the teachers and the students were really equal. Everyone contributed to the school operations, farming, kitchen duty, even construction. And they all had jobs. And not to go off on too much of a tangent, but Ruth Osawa, that some of you may be familiar with if you've been to our museum, she knew how to drive a tractor because she had grown up on a farm. And she also gave haircuts. And for a dime, haircut cost a dime. But students were in charge of their own education.
Wow.
And the school placed responsibility on the students to succeed or fail on their own terms. There were no grades, no structured four-year tenure. And out of the 1,200 students that were admitted throughout the years, estimates say that only 60 or so graduated with homemade diplomas in hand. So the students could sort of decide when they felt like they were ready to graduate. And Joseph Albers, who was instrumental in teaching at the school, he said, "Our aim is a general development of an open-eyed and open-minded youth seeking out the growing spiritual problems of our time." And Joseph Fiore was born in 1925 in Cleveland, Ohio. And he died in 2008 in New York. But he came to study in this Black Mountain in the summer in 1946. On the GI Bill, and he took classes from Joseph Albers and William de Kooning.
William de Kooning.
But he actually returned to the college, and he became one of the longest tenured teachers. He taught at Black Mountain College until it closed. This sort of modernist abstraction has said to be art aspiring to music. And Fiore was heavily influenced by music. He grew up in a family full of musicians, himself included. So his work expresses improvisation related to his interest in jazz music. That's what he commented on. but he sort of strayed farther and farther from realism as his career progressed and his work evolved. But his art, whether it was representational or abstract, usually depicted nature. So but he had a 60-year career as an artist, and the Asheville Art Museum has 15 of his paintings in its collection. So, and this one is currently, I think we have 2 of his paintings currently on view, but we're lucky to have them. Okay, Hank, would you please show us the next slide?
And one quick thing I want to mention, since you brought up Black Mountain College, and thank you for that. But those of you that are familiar with Black Mountain College, and as you know, it's the alumni is pretty much a who's who of modern art. The campus still exists in Black Mountain, although right now it's occupied by Camp Rockmount. But across the street from the museum, across Pack Square and down on College Street towards the courthouse, there's a Black Mountain College Museum and Art Center, and they are currently offering a limited number of tours of the campus. And so if that's something that might interest you, you can give them a call and get the dates and availability. So just wanted to put that plug in there for Black Mountain College.
Is there any time for me to say anything?
What's that?
Is there any time for me to comment again? Sorry.
Well, I'll tell you what, why don't we, just so we have time to have a good discussion on the third artwork, maybe you could hold your comment, and then when we wrap up our discussion of the third artwork, then I'm sure everyone's going to want an opportunity to sort of compare and contrast all 3 of the artworks that we viewed today. So. And again, this painting, it's on view in the collection hall, and it's a very textural painting. And I'm not sure that how well that comes through on the screen, but so on this one, you know, we always take a look top to bottom, side to side, corner to corner. But I'd like to know, what color in this artwork do you notice first?
I actually noticed the red because it's in the center and because it's curved. And looking at this, to me, it says you are here. It's like one of those things like in a mall or when you're out at a place and you see the map and you are here. But I also see almost like measurements that like an architect or an engineer would use. I don't know, a measuring device or some sort of compass. And it's very interesting.
Okay, good. So you're seeing sort of architectural and mathematical elements to this artwork. Okay. And what does the color red mean to you? It could be blood and fire, love, passion, strength, leadership, courage, vigor, anger, danger, vibrance, radiance, determination. But what does red mean to you when you see it?
I think strength, leadership, courage, I'd see that more than I would see blood per se. And although when the red and the blue, there's no white here that you can really tell, then you think more patriotic, or at least, you know, you see red, white, and blue, you think of the flag, patriotic. And but yet then when you think of Valentine's Day and everything is red, so it has a multitude, you know, but first I see strength and courage.
Okay, good.
It's standing out because it marks Well, it stands between the blue of the drafting tool and the brown ochre, which to me represents the earth. So it's someone getting ready to work and build a building, which would be that beige down here.
Okay, good. Okay, good.
Can I say what I think?
Oh, absolutely. Please do.
It reminds me of the bright red fire engine car I've always wanted to buy. And I did get a maroon car this last time.
Well, I've heard that red cars have higher car insurance rates.
Yeah, I heard that. And then they get stopped by the police more. So maybe it's better I have a maroon car. Especially now.
So do y'all think that the artists use the red intentionally to draw us to that outline of that shape? Because the red seems to stand out to everybody as the first color. What do you think was the artist's intent? To draw us to that space in the painting.
I don't know the answer to that, but I have a question. Are there words along the bottom on the little top of the little wooden, whatever that measurement thing is? Like there's little black lines on top of it. Do you see those? Are those words?
Yes, barely, yeah.
They're not words
Okay.
that I recall. Hank, have you seen
Right
this
there,
in
yeah.
the museum? I don't recall those being words.
Okay.
What's interesting to me about this painting is that it's very sort of precise. I absolutely think of an architect or a mathematician. But yet, if you see the lines, the kind of the outlines of the border, they're not bold. You know, they're kind of, they have those loose sort of brush strokes that you're describing there, Laurel. The little, they're not precise. The lines are precise, but not the border.
It's interesting on the colors too, like the red, the dark blue, the bluey gray, they're defined. You can see where one ends and one starts. But when you're in the yellowy, browny, rusty area, it's kind of melded together on those various colors there. And the same like with the brown and the white, the two tones beige on the other little piece there.
Okay, good.
I'm going to go way out on a limb here. To me, initially, it looked like a landscape. The white circle in the upper left was very moon-like to me or sun-like to me. And then the brown kind of had a mountain shape to it with a blue sky above it. And then I did see that structure kind of thing in the bottom, which I think is a building. And to me, the artist is kind of comparing natural items versus man-made, because that building type thing in the bottom is all right angles. So to me, that tells us that's an inorganic man-made thing. And then the mountain and the red with the curves look a lot more organic. And I think in this case, the red represents strength rather than love or danger or some of the other emotions that are associated with red. So where I'm going with that is it kind of looks like he's comparing the strength of the mountain to the strength of the man-made structure, with the mountain being stronger, especially since, as you brought up, the lines that define that structure are not that bold. They're kind of fuzzy, like it's not that strong.
Okay, good.
Can I make a comment?
Oh, absolutely.
So I find myself, instead of looking and analyzing each part and how it's related to each other, I just find myself looking at the whole thing and just being, wow, this is so powerful. Such an interesting whole design. And I'm so bowled over by it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, does anyone have any final commentary before we look at the title?
I just think it's interesting that the right-hand triangular point is, I'm assuming deliberately not there, cut off, as because everything else is so precise that the right triangle is missing.
Mhm.
That is interesting. I wish we could ask the artist. He's still living, actually.
Maybe the artist doesn't know him or herself.
And that can be, because Barbara, back to your point, after I gave that elaborate interpretation of mine, it could also be just a study in shape and color.
Yeah. But it's so powerful. How could it be not more?
Wow, absolutely. Okay, well, Hank, may we see the title, please? So this is the
wow.
studies building that Hank was mentioning.
Oh, wow.
About a tour. And Ronald Robertson studied at Black Mountain College. And he was born in 1927 and he's still living. But he and Laurel made the patriotic comment. So after high school graduation, Ronald Robertson did serve in the military. He spent a year in Europe. And then he enrolled at Wayne State University and then transferred to Black Mountain College. And he also studied art and calligraphy in Japan.
Wow.
And so I mean, I don't know, we're just about out of time, but it's interesting to kind of think about his life and kind of how he came to create this, or if it was just a sort of a shape and color study while he was a student, who knows. But the studies building is the largest structure built by the college. It's 202 feet long and 28 feet wide. And there are 2 enclosed stories, provided 61 student studies, 10 faculty studies and classrooms, and 2 faculty apartments. The ground floor is partially open, with 112 feet being enclosed. Construction commenced in September of 1940 and was completed in May of 1941. And it was designed by Lawrence Kocher. It's interesting, just you can imagine why it would have been such an important building on the campus. It's where all the students had their little, I guess, artist studios where they could work. Well, thank you all so much. We have a couple of minutes left. If anybody wanted to make a final comment.
Did I say something?
I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. Karen first, and then Barbara, please.
So this painting, as we have said, is very architectural. Possibly, to me, it's very architectural. And I'm wondering if the fact that Buckminster Fuller taught at Black Mountain College, I don't know for how many years he was there, but even if he was there for a short time, he left a big impression. If he was influenced by Buckminster Fuller, it's still an unusual painting. I would be curious to see others of his paintings. This particular artist, yeah.
Yes, thank you. That's an insightful comment about the geometric shapes and the Buckminster Fuller influence. Yes. So we sort of went from ominous to peaceful, happy nature, and then to the final painting that that I think could go either way.
You know, on that final painting, Megan, I noticed that it was painted on masonite, which I thought was interesting because masonite is a construction material. So
Yes. Mhm.
So,
I
yeah.
guess the texture of the masonite comes through in the structure at the bottom. That roughness, different coloring. Maybe he left that raw and just had thin paint. Anyway, beautiful. Thank you so much.
Well, you're welcome. Well, thank y'all for joining us.
Could I
Oh, absolutely. Yes, yes.
So for me, this is so huge because I come from the north in Boston, and I only heard about Black Mountain College for a long time, but never knew until you said so much. So you've really enlightened me.
Oh, well, you're
So
welcome.
exciting to me for two reasons. One, I'll share with you. I'm Jewish. I'm second generation Jewish. My grandparents immigrated here, all of them before the World War I. And so that means, frankly, I'm here to tell you the story because all of their family, just about, that was left behind, and we only know about my mother's family that was left behind, just about, sorry to say, completely perished. So when I hear that there was this group of Jewish people that migrated to North Carolina, I had never heard of that until I got wind of it when I told you that I was just in North Carolina. I was at a wellness retreat. I just plopped down there only to do one thing, to lose weight. But I got so much out of it. And I came to your museum. I managed to get to you 3 times out of my 5 weeks, I believe. So here I am with you today. So that's, and I've even thought I would love to move to North Carolina because there's so much there. And you just explained again. I'd love to go on that tour you talked about, Hank, but I don't live there, but maybe I'll move there just to go on it.
well, you could plan a trip around it. I don't know how many there right now are. Two tour dates open, but they will be announcing more. I mean, I don't know how long they plan to do this because they have to work it out with the camp, since they're the actual owners of the campus now. But maybe next time you come this way, there'll be more tours.
Well, who knows when that'll be? It won't be till COVID's over because I live in a senior living community. That's why we have our own private vernal pool. We just actually bought it, which is pretty amazing. But the second reason I wanted to share with you that I'm so excited about this, that of what Black Mountain College accomplished and did for that short amount of time. And I'll just end with the last question, but beforehand, I'll tell you why I'm so excited, because I went to school at Brookline High School, which is a town, right, a suburb of Boston. The Kennedys were from there, as a matter of fact. And who's the famous, I can't remember his name, I never can, that did the gardens in many places. His 3 names. He did gardens here in Boston, the Central Park in New York, New Orleans, etc. I'm sure you know, and I should know too. He's only from my same town. But anyway, my last 2 years of high school, I was in something called School Within a School. And it's a progressive program. It was started as a progressive program, alternative high school, kind of like what you described with Black Mountain. And guess what? It still exists today, 50 years later, and we're the first of its kind, as I understand it, in the country. So I really wonder if the actual teacher founders of this SWS knew about Black Mountain. I'm dying to find out now, because I don't think I heard about Black Mountain way back then. And I just found that, that your area is like a hidden treasure. Like all I knew about was Berkeley, California. And when I got to Berkeley, I thought, oh, this is heaven. But when I got to Asheville, I knew I was in paradise. Like nobody knows about Asheville up here. At least, of course, I know you all know about it, obviously. So, but guess what? I'm just from the north.
Well, thank you so much. And Frederick Law Olmsted, I think,
Yes,
is,
thank you.
and
I
he
didn't
also
know that.
designed the gardens at Biltmore. So,
Oh, he did. No kidding. And I didn't get to Biltmore. I wanted to go.
well, you have
Wow.
lots of reasons to come back. So,
That man was in
Absolutely.
every place. He probably was in every place in the universe, the way it.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up with a big thanks to Megan for an excellent job on helping us look at color today. And I'm very much a color person when I look at artwork, so I really enjoyed today's session. And then feel free to join us on our next Slow Art Friday, which will be October 8th, when touring docent Barbara Pressman is going to have a conversation with us on a theme of portraits, what they reveal. So again, that's October 8th, and just you can register on the website. So thanks again, everyone, and have a great couple of weeks, and hopefully I will see you all again soon.
Can you say